You may know somebody that has an eating disorder. Maybe you have an eating disorder and you're keeping it secret. You know what? The word says that we're to confess our sins, confess our issues to one another, and we're healed. So why don't you call the Miracle Channel Prayer Center, and somebody will pray with you, and we can stand in agreement and believe God to deliver you or lead you to some place where you can get the help that you need so you can be totally free.
Well, Greg, we're talking about these eating disorders, including these extreme things like anorexia and bulimia, and I think you even talked about orexia, and so forth. But now many people that are doing this, they deny that there's anything unusual about their behavior. Is that right?
They deny that. They can say, well, yeah, for you, it'd be wrong, but for me, it's what I have to do. I have to do
So it's
this.
kind of a justification.
There's a justification, which really leads to the next dangerous issue, and that's of pride. See, and people with, and this is, I'm going to be bold and say this, people with eating disorders end up being very prideful, which means they have an exaggerated sense of their own self-importance.
Wow.
Because see, it's all about me. And eating disorder is all about me. I'm self-absorbed. Now, they don't always like to hear that, but I'm just going to be frank and just going to say it. It's all about me. I'm self-absorbed about me. And then you begin to control other people. You bring other people into your disorder and your dysfunction because you're controlling them. You're controlling them by your behaviors. You're controlling them by your moods. You end up being the center of attention for the family. The family's always trying to get you help, and you've been to 6 and 7 different treatment centers, and you're still not well.
Right.
So it really is pride, and you know, to be able to admit they have a problem, they've got to humble themselves.
You know, ultimately, you hit it right on the head. We've ultimately got to say, you know what, this is not working, and this is not, I'm not happy. In fact, I'm really miserable, and I've got to humble myself and say, I need help.
Now, when someone comes to your center, and is it a residential type of environment?
People are there, and they're there. You know, some of the more severe eating disorders are there for several months.
It's like a hospital.
It's like a hospital, but you know what? It's a hospital for those who are hurting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You know, it's like a church. I believe it should be a safe place to go to when I'm hurt. We want to be a safe place.
A sanctuary.
When you're hurt. Because you know what? Don't look at the food and eating disorder. Look what's underneath that. What's underneath the eating disorder? I said it. It's hurt. I have been injured.
Yeah.
And what does anger play in all of this with food disorders?
Anger and self-hatred are huge. The anger, you know, an eating disorder is fueled by anger and hurt. I'm angry at myself. I tell myself, I'm never going to binge and purge again. The next day, I wake up, first thing I do in the morning is get on the scale, see how much I weigh. I'm disgusted with myself. I haven't lost any weight. I'm decided I'm not going to eat all day. Don't eat all day. On the way home from work, I drive through my favorite drive-through that I said I wouldn't ever go to again, and I've overbought food, and I am binging in the car as I drive home. As I get into the house, I continue my binge. I am so angry and mad and upset.
But this is something I've got to do to get back to...
I blew it, because I said I'm never going to do it. That's what you do with eating disorders. I'm not going to do it again, not going to do this again. And guess what? The very thing you say you're not going to do.
Right.
You know, and the trigger point was you got up, you got on the scale, and you used the scale as judging your self-worth or your value. And the cycle goes on and on and on. You see, an eating disorder, for some, it's a secret life. Now, obviously, if you're anorexic, eventually that's going to show on the outside.
Because you get real skinny.
And we're seeing, by the way, more men than we've ever seen before with eating disorders.
Now, why that?
We're seeing men, 20s seem to be a common age, who are coming in for help for the very first time. And there's probably several reasons why we're seeing more men. I think there's more pressure on men to look and be a certain way as well. And these young men have had something that has happened to them, and many of them are not using other addictive behaviors, and they, again, have resorted to food.
Now, have you seen this start later in life, or is this almost exclusively something that starts with teenagers?
We see it start, the youngest we've ever worked with is age 6.
6?
6. We had a 6-year-old anorexic. Now, how can a 6-year-old be anorexic? She just didn't, she really had failure to thrive. She didn't want to eat, had no appetite, didn't eat. Now, here's the thing. She had not been abused. She came from a good family, and she just wouldn't eat. Now, some of the treatment programs that this young girl went to before she got to us, one treatment program, they actually put her in a straitjacket and tied in a hospital bed and force-fed her.
Oh, my.
Okay? Now,
they would have only taken that kind of extreme because they thought, well, she's a child and we're going to make it happen?
Well, I don't know. Apparently, she'd been IV fed, the nasal feedings and so forth.
Oh,
and this little girl would not eat. And one of the things, there's always an answer to an eating disorder. Everybody's answer is different, though.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Oh, okay.
And sometimes there's more than one answer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, this little girl, she, you know what? When they came to us, and we had to be prepared because we don't want anybody coming to us that's going to die. So she had to be medically monitored and cared for. One of the things in this young little 6-year-old girl is I noticed, nobody had been hugging her. She'd been treated that she was sick and sick and sick, and so one of the first things we began to do is just get down on our hands and knees and just kind of enter into her world. And what we did was we went out, I went to the veterinarian, and I said, I need a little kitten. And I got the scrawniest little runt of a kitten I could possibly find. The vet said, this little kitten's going to probably die. I said, perfect, it's the one I want.
Mm-hmm.
I brought that little kitten to this girl, and I said, sweetheart, your job is to keep this kitten alive. This little 6-year-old girl petted this little kitten so much you'd think she would have wore the fur off of the kitten.
But now if my responsibility is to keep this kitten alive, I'm not as so focused on me?
Partially, but what we realized was later on in some of her medical workup, she had very low levels of the human growth hormone. That was and by touching, we touch premature babies and they're put on a touch cup. By touching this little kitten, this is how the Lord used by touching this kitten, she was actually releasing the levels of growth hormone in her body and in the kitten.
Wow.
So the kitten lived?
The kitten lived.
Oh, my.
She lived. And one day, because we had a special room we had her in, one day we were sitting around, or the treatment team, the counselors were, and this little girl raises up her head and says, I'd like something to eat. Wow. And couldn't remember last time she'd done that. And I remember the counselor come out and said, she wants something to eat. I said, well, go in and find out what she wants.
But that was really a God thing. You were really led by the Spirit to go get that cat. That's awesome.
I just share that story to say there's always a missing link. And if you've been struggling with eating disorder, and you've been carrying that label on yourself, man, we got to get the label off of you.
Yeah.
Once an anorexic or bulimic, look, you don't need to carry that around. That behavior is pointing to something else. Let's find the root cause.
That's a beautiful story. That really is.
This is just a great place, and Dr. Jantz has written this great book, Hope, Help, and Healing for Eating Disorders. I love this. A new approach to treating anorexia, bulimia, and overeating. Go on our website, miraclechannel.ca. This is BP offer number 48, $30. Dr. Jantz, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
It has been enlightening.